What's up, Magnetic Men Club? We are back here on another Friday. Obviously, we do these different topics every single Friday, and if there's any topics you guys would like us to cover, let us know. Today, we are talking all about the cheating wife, basically the betrayed husband, what it's like for the men's perspective, not so much the women's perspective. Obviously, there's two sides to every part of this. I'm sure the women have their own perspective, but that's not really what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about what men should do when they're cheated on, and really advice for men that may be going through this. And really, we just want to have a good discussion and conversation on this. So if you guys have had experiences with this, maybe let us know below. If you guys want to have any conversations with us personally about this privately, then obviously you guys can always go fill out the form on our website. We're happy to.
Yeah, also, guys, Chase might be cutting out a lot. He's in Mexico, and they're still kind of dealing with the last hurricane that went through. So I think we lost signal with him. So I'll probably take point a lot of this. My name is Jared Shoemaker. I'm the co-founder of Magnetic Men's Club, obviously with Chase and his wife, Kim. We decided to put this channel together because I've always seen a gap in advice for men, men's mental health, men learning to level up themselves, and really just men being men. And I saw the gap in this about a year ago, and I started doing YouTube videos, and with Chase and with Kim, we put together a program where we coach men specifically. I coach men specifically around divorce, bad breakups. Maybe you really even haven't had a good relationship with a woman. Maybe you've always been thrown in friend zone. So that's what I focus on. And today's video is largely around the betrayed husband. Now, I've done quite a bit of coaching around this for men who they've gone through a divorce. But that's really not the problem. Was the divorce is them finding out during the separation process or after the divorce, there was always somebody else in the picture. And this is kind of what the last video I believe we posted. I'm not exactly sure when it dropped, but it's called The Betrayed Husband. You can take a look at that and the YouTube. And the idea is I first want to preface this by cheating in any form, whether a guy does it or a girl does it, there's a deficiency in that person. It really doesn't have anything to do with the person being cheated on, but women cheat just as much as men. And I know a lot of girls are going to listen to this and they're going to take their own experiences like, I would never do that. You need to pull all that out because generally speaking, I'm speaking on a general term. I'm not speaking about anybody specific, but generally speaking, women cheat just as much as men. You can Google it. You can take a look at all the statistics out there. Sometimes women actually cheat more than men. There's a whole reasons why, but a lot of it has to do with access. Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever else freaking apps that are out there, the more times her face, her body, her presence is out there, the more opportunity for men to see her, the more opportunity for these men to reach out. Now, most of the time, these men are your basic beta male orbiters. They're really, they're just fans, whatever. But they're also opportunists. They have an opportunity to notice her, to talk to her. And at some point, if she's feeling a certain way in her relationship, whether it's her marriage or LTR, she's going to use her hypergamous nature. There's a deficiency in her relationship, or she feels there's a deficiency, and we'll get into that down the road. But she feels there's a deficiency. The magic's just not there. The Disney magic and all this bullshit that they were brought up with, and she realizes that's not reality, and she wants that reality again. It's just not there. somebody else comes in the picture at the right time or the wrong time, however you're viewing it, says a certain thing, does a certain thing, whatever. She finds herself in a position where, I always said I was a good girl. I always said that I would never cheat. And now I'm giving my time and attention to this stranger. And this is where infidelity comes in. Now, I am going to make two different distinctions. They're both, hey, however you want to look at it, you can get pissed at this all you want, but a man cheating is not the same as a woman cheating. It's just not. And the main reason why whoever's watching this needs to understand is for a woman to literally open up her legs and allow another man inside of her, she has to, on some level, have some type of an emotional competency to him. Whether she finds him attractive, there's an emotion there in some level that she's going to allow it. And that's the word. She has to allow it. Men, some of the girls I had one night stands with, I didn't even like. I didn't even give a shit. I'm like, whatever. I don't have to like them at all. That's the fundamental difference between when a man cheats, it's not always, and it's usually not always, has anything to do with emotion. There's no emotion to it. He's exercising sexual flavor, if you want to call that. Women typically don't do that. Unless guys, you married a hoe, well, then that's your own damn fault. I mean, you should have vetted better. But what we're talking about are most of the good girls. They get into a relationship, they get married, it gets stale. She has the mindset of, I'm a good girl, I would never cheat on Keith, I would never cheat on fill in the blank. And then she finds herself sexually attracted and emotionally attracted to another man. That's cheating. To me, that's far worse than actual physical cheating. The emotional side is far worse and far more devastating to her husband or to her LTR than anything else. And that was the whole point of my video that I brought up, and I kind of went through the steps of how this happens and why it happens. But a lot of it has to do, back to baseline, there was something inside of her that maybe there was a deficiency, maybe she saw her parents go through a divorce, maybe her mom did it, maybe her dad did it. It doesn't really matter. It happened. At the end of the day, it mattered. It happened. And when a man finds out his wife, whether it's through separation or divorce, the real reason why is for another man, that's where men get beyond depressed. They can develop all kinds of psychological problems exacerbated by alcohol, drug abuse, all of that. And so this is why when a man finds out his wife cheated, it's far worse than if a woman find out her husband cheated. What do you think about that, Chase? Are you back?
Hopefully, we'll see how it all works out. Yeah, that's I don't know. This internet's been crazy today for some reason, but yeah, I'll be in the chat here and stuff too. So like, I've got enough internet for that at least. But at the end of the day, I do believe that it's entirely different. Like, I think men's motivations are very, very different to women's motivations. Absolutely. Because I feel like, yeah, women have to have a certain emotional connection. Men don't. Like, men are just kind of in it for the pleasure. They don't really care so much about the other girl, the other side of things, right? A lot of men can just kind of up and leave a certain situation. But when they're really in love with somebody, they can't just simply leave that situation. They could go have sex with somebody else, and it really is kind of meaningless to them. I'm not saying that that makes it okay or anything like that, but I am saying that there is a big, big difference here, because if a woman goes to cheat, it's entirely an emotional connection. Like, she's actually, like, a lot of women tend to be in their heads with this stuff, and a lot of them tend to kind of build this stuff up. Like, they build up this other reality in their head that's just completely separate from where they're at to try and support what they think and what they're doing and that kind of stuff too. And so I think that women, when they make that choice to finally like actually go out and do that, like they're actually looking for a relationship. They're looking for somebody else. Like they're actually looking to maybe even jump ship. It's not just a one night stand for them, unless they're a hoe, obviously, like you mentioned. But I mean, a lot of it comes down to the fact that like they're actually out there playing the field. Like they're actually out there looking for something else that they could jump ship over to. And I think that that's the real betrayal here, is the fact that if they see that the other side of the fence isn't as green, if they see that the other guy really, he's not making the kind of money that you are, he's not a provider, he's maybe not as good a dad as you are, then she starts to look back and say, okay, well, maybe I made a big mistake. Maybe we just need a separation and we'll figure it out. And she's really just trying to play the field. Right. And so at the end of the day, like when you're in this kind of a situation, it's hard to say that like, oh, well, you should just work it out and you should just stay with her. I mean, I've seen advice for this across the board as I've done research and stuff on this. And as I've been in this situation myself, like in past relationships and stuff too. I mean, I've been there. Like I think a lot of us as men have been there on both sides of it, obviously. And so I think that it's hard to say that you should just try to work it out and stay in the situation. I think that in most cases, it's probably better if you just kind of rip the Band-Aid off and just be done with it and just move on, because what they don't really tell you when you go back through and decide to work it out is the fact that it's going to be really hard. It's going to be a long road, for one thing, especially if you have family involved. If your family knows about it at all, it's going to be a hard way back. Like there's no way you're ever going to have the same relationship with her that you had before. Like everything moving forward is entirely brand new. And so there's no way that you can just simply decide to work it out with her and that things go back to the way they were. It just doesn't work that way. And so the only option you really have when this happens to you, yes, you do need to take ownership. You need to say, okay, well, what caused this in the first place? You really need to learn from it. You need to understand what pushed her away, what made her start seeking something somewhere else. Why did she lose respect for you? That kind of stuff. It's important to understand. Not saying it's your fault, but you got to take ownership. You got to say, okay, what could I have done better? What could I have done differently? How did I find myself in this kind of a situation? And what do I need to improve about myself to make sure that I don't find myself in this situation again? Whether you decide to stay with her or not, that's just something you kind of have to reflect on, because if you want to be in a better relationship with somebody else moving forward, or if you want to make the relationship better with her, you've got to fix that stuff. Like you've got to make sure that you're going to the gym, that you have certain direction in life, that you are driven, you're a provider, you're financially stable, that kind of stuff. You keep being a good dad, like, because obviously if kids are involved, that's a whole nother layer on top of this too. If you've got kids involved, I'm not saying that you should stay with her for the kids either. That could be a really bad situation for the kids, because if you're never happy and you're always, you don't trust her anymore, and you always think that she's going to be out there playing the field or looking for somebody else, like you're never going to trust her the same way again. Like it's just never going to happen. She'll go on a girls' trip somewhere else, and the whole freaking time you're going to be thinking, oh, she's probably doing something. The problem is, too, is that goes both ways. She's never going to trust you again either, because she's going to think you always want revenge. And so it's just going to be this turbulent situation that is permanent. You always have to deal with it. Like even years down the line, you will always be in this situation. And so you really have to ask yourself, is this worth working on? Nobody can tell you whether it is or isn't. Every situation is different. Maybe you love her for one reason or another. Obviously, it's really difficult, especially when you have kids, especially when you're married, to kind of separate and go your separate ways, lose half your stuff, whatever the hell it takes. Even if she cheated on you, you still risk losing half your stuff. Sure. That's the unfortunate side of it. But you have to ask yourself, like, is it worth trying to work it out just so I can keep my stuff and just so I can keep myself in this situation? Or is it worth it for me to see what's on the other side of this, to just rip off the Band-Aid, be done with this, and go live my best life somewhere else? Nobody can answer that for you. You kind of got to ask yourself that question. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I can answer it for you. I can answer for everybody. She doesn't even want to work things out. She might cry and beg and say, please take me back. The second you do, the back of her mind, she's like, this mother, I just cheated on him. I just told him, and he's willing to work it out. He has no backbone. He has he can't even stand on his own. He has no ability to walk away from this. She just lost even more respect from you. She just lost even more. So it's not even the fact that she cheated. The fact you keep her, you decide to let's work on this and go through therapy and spend thousands of dollars with the therapist who's probably a woman who's probably going to lean on her side and figure out how you screwed this up. You know, that's the cute thing about therapy. Sometimes they're going to gang up on you and be like, oh, well, this is your fault. And then because women usually aren't accountable for shit. They're like, oh my God, this was your fault. You didn't pay attention to me. That's why Jimmy fell on my crotch. Of course this happened.
Absolutely.
No, what you need to do is completely say, hey, I was good to you. Now, again, this is assuming you didn't do anything wrong. We're coming from the frame that you're a good, solid guy. You're a good husband. You're a good provider. You did get a little boring because there was a deficiency someplace, but we're not talking about tit for tat. You ended up cheating, so she did. We're just talking about she came to you or you found out she cheated. She's begging for another chance. And if you give her that second chance, it's not going to last. Either way, the relationship's doomed. You're just prolonging it a little bit more. She's not going to respect you. You need to say, hey, you had your time. We had great memories. This is great. You're a dirty hoe. You got to go. That's the end of it. And file for the divorce. If you're already in a separation, you realized, Tom from accounting has always been in the picture. You need to accelerate that divorce and just be done and move on with your life, because she can't respect you. You have no frame. If you won't leave a woman over her cheating on you, she's got you. What else would be the reason? You killed my dog. She can literally do anything and be like, this mother effer is never going to leave me. And then that's what makes them feral. That's what makes these women feral. And they keep doing it over and over again. And they have no consequence to it because you're always going to work it out. Cut them completely loose. Let them go deal with their own traumas, their own BS. You go and work on yourself. Get into hopefully a better relationship. If you get some good coaching around this, we can definitely help you out with that. But get into a better relationship. Your best revenge is massive success. Just move on and find somebody better.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with that too, because that's the biggest thing that I've seen as I've done my research. Obviously, usually when we do these lives, I like to go through and see what other people are saying about the topic. I like to go through on YouTube and kind of see what I can find and see how other people are discussing this. And that's what I found. I found both sides of the argument. I found a couple people arguing the fact that, okay, you need to leave, you need to get out of the situation. I found a couple other people talking about how, no, that would be the foolish thing to do. You need to try and work it out if you can. You need to accept ownership. What I've seen, especially in the comments section from a lot of men, where they're telling you that you need to work it out, is like, okay, well, that's what a woman wants to hear. That's exactly, you're giving a woman's advice to this. That's exactly what you're going to hear from a therapist too, from couples therapy, all that kind of stuff too. Yeah, you're obviously the enemy. Obviously it was down to something that you did. And that's what she's going to tell you too. It's like, well, I was just bored and there was no spark anymore. And he made me feel special and that kind of stuff too. And
Right.
those are the things you're going to hear. And at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, are you ever going to be happy in that situation again? Are you ever going to be happy with her again? Are you ever going to trust her again? Because in order to have a good connection, in order to have a good relationship with somebody, trust is the cornerstone of that. And if you can't trust her anymore, that's the thing, is you have to understand that you're never going to feel the amount of respect from her that you had initially, but you could get that somewhere else.
Sure.
And are you just prolonging that situation by staying there? You have to understand, okay, well, why do you need to stay together? Is it because you have kids together? Is it because you really love this girl? Which, if you really love this girl and she's out there cheating on you, then I don't know, man, you should rethink exactly what love is. But at the end of the day, the only advice that I would give to somebody, honestly, every situation is different, but I have to agree that the only way forward is out. You've got to just go and improve yourself. And obviously she's going to see you improving yourself, and she's going to try to get back with you that much more because she sees you doing the things now that she wanted you to do before. But are you ever going to be happy in this situation? You really got to take a step back and ask yourself that. And I know, especially when you're married, especially when you have kids and you're in that situation and you realize, okay, well, I'm going to lose half my stuff. My whole life is going to be different after this. Maybe it's a high school sweetheart and somebody you've always been with, and you don't even know who you are without that person, which that's a codependent situation that you find yourself in. And that's not healthy, right? And so you have to understand, who are you on your own? Who are you when you're alone? Can you even be alone? And maybe you should go and try that for a little while just to find out, right? And I'm not saying get a separation or anything like that. I'm like, get out of the situation. Just completely get out of it. And then you can make whatever decision you want once you take a step back and you understand yourself a little better and you understand the situation that you're in a little better. But that's the thing, is like, everybody's going to give you different advice. And so you have to understand, okay, well, am I ever going to be happy here ever again? Because if you're not, you're never going to trust her ever again. You're never going to have that connection ever again. You could have that somewhere else. Like, that's the thing that you have to understand. You can absolutely find that somewhere else. And don't prolong a bad situation hoping for the best, right? That's exactly what you're doing, just like Jared said.
Yep. No, I agree. And like I said, Papa Jared, I have the answers. You have to leave that situation. This doesn't just apply to marriage. Maybe you have a girlfriend you dated for 6 months and she cheated and you try to work it out. Man, you're a sucker. You got to learn to walk away and mean it. This is really the cornerstone to every solid relationship. If the man has solid frame and his woman knows, if I fuck up in any way, he'll walk. He's going to bounce, especially if you said, hey, listen, I love you. We're going to be together. These are things that are hard no. Don't cheat on me. Don't blast your bikini or half-naked self all over Instagram and Facebook. Don't have guy friends. Like, I was talking to my girlfriend. I'm like, there's no reason. So if you have hard boundaries and they know, all right, if I cross this boundary, I know he's going to leave. They won't cross the boundary. All they got to do is once. And if you move that goalpost a little bit, she's going to do it again. You move it again. Oh, don't talk to him again. She's going to do it again. This is how they end up using this. Oh, well, he made me feel special. No, you kept moving your frame. This is one of the reasons why I don't feel in love with him anymore. All of this other bullshit, all this crap they come up in their head. They want to be in a love story. Guys have to understand that. They want to be in a fucking love story that doesn't exist. Their reality is not based in reality. Most women's logic, it's based in feeling. They watch a goddamn Hallmark Channel show and they feel like, I should find Ben, who's the Christmas tree salesman, and I'm the power broker in New York City, and we're going to fall in love. None of that shit works, but I hear it all the time. They want a guy that says, no, listen, these are the things that are hard no for me. And he respects her hard no's. This is the cornerstone to a good, healthy, solid relationship. Having that ability to walk away and mean it. When she really knows that, like, this, don't mess with this mother effer, these are his no's, she'll never cross that line. And if she does, you're better off for it. You're like, hey, you just did me a favor. I ain't got to waste my time with you. A good, strong man who's on his path and purpose, who's making decent money, he's a good person, is a rare commodity these days. A beautiful face, woman, they're a dime a dozen. They literally are a dime a dozen. So when men have this thought, I need to keep her because I love her. Yeah, she just ran a train, all this other shit, but I'm going to work things out. You're playing yourself. 100% you're playing yourself. There's beautiful women everywhere. Your job is to make it so that you level yourself up so much, you have such a strong frame, that you have such strong boundaries that when a woman enters your life, she does not want to leave that, because that's where her safety comes in. The masculine frame is a container that the female can feel safe and grow in. If it gets flipped and the female frame is out there, they become feral. They're fire. They become fucking feral. They're going to go do whatever the hell they want because there's nothing to control them. They want to be controlled in the sense of, here's the limits, here's where my fire can go. This is what they want. They want to feel safe within those limits. As soon as she stops feeling safe is when she starts having these stupid thoughts that, oh, Brad keeps hitting on me. You know what? I'm going to entertain Brad just for a minute because your container isn't strong enough. She's starting to seep through all your cracks that you've done throughout the years. And this is when woman's energy. It's fucking an explosion. She's going to start using her hypergamous nature. And this is where the problem lies. This is why women cheat. They have way more options than you. Think about your girlfriend. If she goes out to a club, think about the fattest, ugliest girl you know. By 2 o'clock in the morning, some dude's going to take her home. Some dude who's drunk enough is going to be like, God, I need something. This is how men are. We're pigs. We'll bang anything. This is another reason why it's so much different when a man has sex or cheats on his girlfriend than a woman. She might even look this girl up and be like, that's a fat cow. I know. I get it. Has nothing to do with looks. Has nothing to do. We're just horny. We'll bang a freaking hole in a tree if we have to. Now, I just got off point. But the point is, this is the female energy. It's beautiful. It's like fire, but your frame has to be strong enough to contain her. Otherwise, it runs feral. It literally will run feral. They're going to find somebody else to monkey branch to, or at least, oh, I'm going to see what Brad's talking about. Yeah, what's one drink with Brad right after work? What's one drink? That's already infidelity. That's already cheating. Oh my God, no, I can have friends with a guy, a work friend. The fuck you can't. No, the hell you cannot. My girlfriend says, hey, I'm going to go out and just have a couple of drinks with the guys. I'm like, cool. I will delete every freaking thing off her on Facebook. Everything will be gone, and she'll never hear from me again. And she knows this. So the choice, that's just a strong frame. Maybe I'm a dick. I don't know. But that's just a strong frame. Guys who don't have a strong frame end up getting in problems like this. And this is one of the biggest things I teach when guys go through a bad breakup. I learn very quickly what the problem is. And yes, even though she allowed some other guy to bang her, I'm sorry, it's still your fault. It's still your fault.
Well, and that's the thing too, is you got to be okay with getting rid of her. I mean, you've got to be okay with being on your own. You've got to be okay with playing the field. Like, you've got to be okay with getting back out there. I think a lot of guys, especially in today's day and age, and a lot of younger guys, they tend to think that like this girl is the end all be all for them, and they've got to work it out, whatever it takes. Like, she's the love of my life. And it's like, no. You would feel that way about almost anybody else out there.
Right.
You got to be okay with being on your own. You've got to be okay with being alone. Because if you're not, you're never going to hold your frame with anyone. You're never going to set the right boundaries. And she's never going to respect that. And so, and it's not even just her. It's any girl that you ever get with. You've got to be okay with being on your own. You've got to realize who you are as a person before you get with anybody else. Because if you're with somebody and you don't even know who you are, God, you're going to feel bad every time you go out and do anything. You're going to feel bad about going to the gym and leading her home for an hour. And she's going to try to make you feel bad about it too, especially if like the girl's really insecure and stuff too. And so you have to understand, like, a lot of this stuff is insecurities, and a lot of it's stuff that you just kind of have to address. That's the thing I love about Magnetic Men Club, is that we have a group of men who you can come confide in, who you can come talk to about this stuff. And that's what it's all about, is having that group of men that you can actually talk to, that you can ask for advice, that have been there, that have done that. Because when you have that kind of support behind you, you can make whatever decision you need to. And it's not even that you need to invest in this program to have that. Like, if you have a group of men in your life who you can go out with, who you can confide in, who you can talk to, who will talk to you about this stuff. Don't talk to your girl about this stuff. That's the one thing I can tell you too. Don't confide in her. You got to go home and you got to hold your frame. When you want to talk about your feelings and how you're feeling, you got to get a group of men together to talk about that stuff. And that's really what it is. And they'll tell you exactly what to do. And they'll tell you if you're being a pussy or not. They'll tell you if you're just, You're not holding your frame, all that kind of stuff too, because they're not going to hold that stuff back from you. Your girl is not the place to do that. She's just not. She wants to see you hold your frame. She wants to feel safe with you. She wants to feel like you're setting the boundaries. She wants to feel like you could tackle the world if you needed to. She doesn't want to hear about your insecurities. And so that's one of the big things too. Is she doesn't want to see those insecurities. She doesn't want to hear about those insecurities. So don't give them to her. Don't show them to her. Don't go there. Really, at the end of the day, that's really what's going to push her away. And so you got to have a group of guys out there who you trust, who you can confide in, who are on a mission. Not just loser guys in your town, not just loser guys from high school who have no ambition in life. You really need to get with a group of men who know what it means to be men, who know how to be men, right? Maybe it's your grandpa, maybe it's your dad, maybe it's your uncle or something like that too. Maybe it's some of the guys at the bar who just go to hang out, some of the guys at the bowling alley who just go to hang out. In this group here that we have in Magnetic Men Club, in this club, we have a brotherhood of men, and that's really the one thing that I wanted to build out in this, because that's one of the key principles in Iron John. When you're trying to be initiated, you have to be initiated by other men. That's how tribes worked for 100,000 years in human history. In our evolution, is the group of older men would take the boys out hunting for their first time. They would tear them away from their mothers when they're a certain age, and they would initiate them. And then they wouldn't need their moms when they came home, and they would go out there and they would be men, because they know for a fact if they come home without a buck, if they come home without food, their family's starving for the winter. And that's just unacceptable. There's no way you come home without anything. You come home with something, you're a man, you got to buck up. And that's exactly what those tribe of men taught those guys to do. And that's exactly what we need to achieve in today's day and age if we want to stop this weak men crisis too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll add a little bit more onto that. We did a video, or I did a video, I don't think we talked about it, but the Agoj, which is that, guys remember the 300, the Spartan warriors, everyone went through what's called an Agoj, and that's just, we don't really have that anymore. Men that typically go into the military or maybe are high level sports, they kind of get it because there's so much competition and there's mental and physical draining things that happen to you. But most men kind of live a life of quiet comfort these days. And so when they end up finding somebody and falling in love with them, and they get married, we'll use marriage or long term, and back into their frame kind of changed. They become wishy-washy. I believe, I forget his name, but he calls it death by 1,000 cuts or 1,000 concessions. Little by little, you're making concessions to her. And although you think it's cute and you're probably subscribing to the idea of happy wife, happy life, she's starting to lose respect little by little from you because of that. And when this happens and you're from this point where you were married, there was an infidelity, which we talked about the two different kinds, and how I believe the emotional infidelity is far worse than the physical. At that point, just to stay a little bit on topic, this is where she's going to develop an identity crisis. Okay, and the identity crisis is just that. Last month, however long it took to develop this relationship, I was a good girl. I was married. I never thought about this. Then I crossed a line. Again, the line can be a couple drinks. The line can be we're bantering. The line could be some provocative pictures you guys are, she's sending to another man. Or the line can be all of that and sex. From those two, whatever line she crossed, there's an identity crisis. Men, we don't have that. If we cheated on our wives or girlfriends, I firmly believe you can still cheat on your wife or girlfriend and completely love them. We can completely keep them separate. Not all, but I'm saying for the most part, the general, women can't. So now that there's an identity crisis, at some point, I was the good girl. I was the good wife. I was the devout wife. I never would think about this. Now I crossed a line. Now they can't say they're a good girl. They can say it out loud, but they know what they've done. This is where they start having that identity crisis. And there's a lot of telltale signs, or however the hell that says, at this point where she's having that crisis. Maybe she did have a one-night stand and she's feeling guilty about it. Maybe she is realizing, you know what, I shouldn't be talking to this guy the way I am. He's really good looking. He gives me the attention, but I'm married. Whatever. She has a guilt in there. If she didn't have a guilt, this should actually be really easy. She would just leave your ass and go right directly to him. There is no guilt. But there's guilt in most women. So what they're going to do is try to end that relationship. They're not going to be able to. And the reason why is she's got a taste. Her thought, again, that movie in her mind. What if this is the one for me? What if this guy is everything my husband's not? They start having this movie in their mind. And women live in their fantasy. They don't live in reality. If women watching this, hey, whatever, they don't live in reality. They live in fantasy. And so once they get into this mindset, and maybe they did have sex, and she's going to try to stop this. She's going to try to say, hey, blah, blah, blah. I had a good time. I'm married. I can't do this. All the while, you got to remember, this guy, this new person, doesn't give a shit if he's married or not. It doesn't care. It could be worse if this guy was married. Now there's mutual destruction. So there's a whole other thing we could go into about that. Here's what's generally the playbook is going to happen, though. She's going to break things off for a period of time, and then she's going to devote herself to her husband. There was a point where she didn't even want her husband to touch her. There was a point where she just felt violated with her husband touching her. Now all of a sudden she's going to start giving massive amounts of attention and love to her husband. It's all out of guilt. She's taking all of this emotion that she has for this one guy. Now she's pushing it back into her husband, thinking this will fix it. It won't. Her identity completely shifted. I already had an affair. Then at some point, whether it's with this same guy or another guy, the cycle's going to repeat. She's going to then start having that same identity, but now she's going to start looking for someone else to blame. You know, if my husband only paid attention to me, if he didn't work so hard, if he wasn't out with hunting, whatever the hell excuse she wants, I wouldn't be doing this. It's bullshit. Women are really good at using that, you know. I don't want to put women down, but they're really not good at taking responsibility for their actions because society as a whole told them nothing's their fault. Most women live on easy mode. They really do. Their whole life is fairly easy for the most part. Men, right. We don't. We start at hard mode. And if you've done the work, as you get older, it hopefully is a little bit easier. So now you have this identity crisis. She may try to win her husband back, try to keep this marriage together, try to really work on it. And if she's smart, she'll never fucking tell her husband what happened and just deal with it and not go back into that because she's realizing, all right, I don't want to F this up with my husband. I really don't. Sadly, most of the time is they can't. They're so emotionally involved with this guy that they want more. They cannot get out of the reality. It's just how it works. Then what they're going to do is at a certain point, she's going to be tired of sneaking around. She's going to be tired of using fake apps to talk to this guy. She's going to suggest what we call a separation. And in this thing, separation is just a cute way to say, my husband's still going to be liable for the house and all the payments, yet he has to leave the house, and I'm going to play pretend boyfriend and girlfriend with this new guy. That's what it means. A separation used to mean a separation where neither party are dating anyone else. They're working on themselves to see if they can repair the marriage. How in the hell can that happen if she's got another guy? It can't. So in this separation, she still gets to live out part-time her love affair, love story with this new guy. Maybe it's every other weekend. Maybe it's however your visitation schedule is with your kids. She gets to live in a love story, but also have her other foot in marriage because she's still married. She's still married. And so now you have the separation. It could last however, no, whatever state you're in. Most times, by the time an actual divorce is initiated, it could be a year or two, just the way the courts are. So if you're dumb enough to allow this separation and just say, yeah, let's live separately, let's just see how this goes, that's what she wants. She's like, yeah, this is great. I get the comfort, I get his money, I get his parental rights every other weekend, and I get to go on vacation with Brad from accounting or where the hell Brad works and live in this love story. It's not until she has to make the actual decision, and hopefully your ass made it for her, of divorce. So the only way to get her good girl status back is divorce, right? She has to stop the marriage, stop this relationship, stop the relationship of the affair she had, and go back out there dating, because that resets her in her mind to good girl status. Well, nobody has to know I'm the one that caused the divorce. Nobody has to know this. This is why the guy she cheated on during the marriage, that's a rebound. It's a damn rebound. And that relationship won't. If the guy who's in the relationship with her is smart, it's like, why would I stick with you? You cheated on your husband with me.
Yeah,
You're going to do it again. I just say, hey, if the women who are married, they're doing this, just treat them like community property. That's what they are. They broke their vow. They're going to do it again. So just enjoy it for what it is. If you're the guy, if you're the married guy, again, sorry guys, she's community property now. She chose to break her vow. She went off with another guy. You need to divorce her. To me, it doesn't get any simpler than that. To me, it's very, very simple.
All three of the people in this scenario need to go their separate ways. Like that's where it's going anyway. No matter what you do, like whether it's a year down the line, 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line, that's where it's going to end up. All three of these guys are going to end up not even seeing each other, not even knowing each other. And so in reality, like she is trying to build up this new reality around her so that she can feel better in her new identity. Because every time she goes to his house, I mean, sure, it's pleasurable. Sure, whatever they're doing is whatever. But every time she goes home, she feels dirty. And she has that identity crisis through and through every single time. And she just wants that to stop. And even through that an entire separation, she's still going to feel that way the entire time. And so in reality,
because her husband usually still doesn't know the why.
Yeah.
Most of the time, the husband will never know she had an affair until much later in the separation or the actual divorce, when Brad all of a sudden enters the picture. Brad's always been there. That's where I'm saying this is when guys realize this. They're like, what the fuck? We were separated, and all of a sudden, Brad's in your Christmas card list. What the hell? You know, he's with my dog and your Christmas card.
I'm just gonna tell you right now, if she wants a separation, that's your first red flag. Like that's the first instance where you know, okay, she wants a separation. There's something else going on. There's no way. There's not. There's no freaking woman out there that wants a separation and still wants to be with her husband.
No.
There's something that's going on the back end. And so if she wants a separation, just okay, let's just get the divorce now. Who cares? Why are we going to prolong this another year, 2 years, whatever? Let's just do it. Rip off the Band-Aid. I'll go start doing my thing. You go do your thing. And at the end of the day, it's really what's best for everybody that's involved, because now you get to move on much faster. You get to get into whatever your next stage is in life, whatever your next chapter is, much faster. And you don't got to deal with all this other pain and anguish from prolonging that stuff for months and years on end. Just end it now. Just be done with it and move on with your life and get into something else. You're going to be so much happier. She's going to be so much happier. And even if you have kids involved, they're going to be so much happier, because you can actually work this out in a way that, dude, if you're happy, your kids will be happy. If mom's happy, your kids will be happy. You guys are not happy together. Something happened. this whole situation came about because of it. It's a side effect of it. Sure. None of you guys are happy. Nobody in this entire scenario is happy. The kids aren't happy. They're not happy because mom and dad are staying together, all that stuff, because life gets to stay the same. Everybody's going to be so much happier and so much more better off if you guys can just rip the Band-Aid off now and just be done with it. I'm not saying that that's an easy situation. It definitely isn't. Because, like, I know a lot of the guys here, especially if you're married, they're like, okay, well, who gets the car? Who gets the dogs? Who gets the house? Who this and that? And it's just, you go through all these things, and then you start talking yourself out of it because of all those things. Don't let that cycle happen. Just rip it off. Just go for it and move into a happier life. And you're going to thank yourself so much more later on.
Yep. Do you, and in my video, I kind of highlighted this. The only time that it makes sense to stay in the relationship, to stay in theirs, and usually I preface this by usually there's an understanding. Income levels right around 250,000 and up. If you look at the statistics, the divorce rates are a lot lower. Does that mean because none of them are cheating? Fuck no, they're cheating, but it's more of an open thing. It says, listen, honey, you're always working. You're always doing this. You're always doing that. I know you're going to do what you're going to do. I may do what I got to do, but neither is ever going to find out about it. We're not going to bring home STDs. We're not going to bring home any, out of wedlock children. I'm not going to get embarrassed on Facebook or Instagram and all this. There's a contractual understanding non-verbally that this happens. And the reason why it happens at higher incomes is because neither party really want to lose the status of being married, because you have to remember, if you're in a high level profession, a married man is viewed, generally speaking, more reliable than a single guy. They're just viewed that way. A married woman is viewed higher up as far as she's married than a single woman. So at higher income levels, there's just generally this unspoken truth that says, hey, you're in Milwaukee, you're here, whatever happens, happens. I just don't want to know about it. It's usually 120,000, it's about 10% of the population and under have this problem where it's not spoken about. I'm not saying it's specifically tied to income or education. It's just at those levels, if you're making that kind of money, it's more of a business arrangement. And I don't care what people say, hey, I don't get married on a business arrangement. Well, yeah, you do, because your marriage is a contract. It's a business. Because when you get a divorce, you need attorneys to untwine it. So you do get married on a business arrangement. You just call it a marriage contract. I don't argue with me all you want, but that's what it is. The premise why you got married could be love, could be this, could be that, but it's still a business arrangement. It's still a contract that you both signed. And to get out of it, massive amounts of money, half of your shit gets divided, the stigma of divorce, all of that. So at higher levels, that's generally not what happens. It's an unspoken thing. The takeaway on this is if you're married and you're a good, solid guy and maybe a little bit of fuddy-duddy, a little bit boring or whatever, the best way to avoid all of this stuff is early on just develop a very strong frame, not a dick, but a strong frame. Hold your boundaries. As soon as she crosses those boundaries, you need to take massive action, because if you let that boundary and you move it, she's going to cross it again. This is what happens. So I'm not saying in all circumstances, but a lot of the guys have coaches where their wives cheated on them. You start going down that path and realize there were times you could have stopped this, but, oh yeah, it's cool. You can go on a weekend trip with your divorced girlfriends. That's cool. You can go on a weekend trip with your single friends. This is moving that goalpost. Like, oh, I'll allow it because I trust you. Fuck, I trust you. I don't trust every other guy out there trying to get in your pants. That's why I don't trust. And I don't trust your judgment when you're drinking. And I don't trust your girlfriends that are all divorced or all single. Why the hell would I trust them? So
Truth.
you have to understand the circle. That's all I got to say about it. At the end of the day, if this happens, your only option is to walk away and mean it. Rebuild your life. Don't try to put a turd back up your butt. It's just never goes in the same way. That's what I got to say.
That's just it. Like, it's never going to be the same. It's
No.
just, you cannot have the same relationship coming out of this. You cannot have the same amount of trust. You can never build it back up to that level. And so you have to ask yourself, are you just prolonging the inevitable? Like, I would love to come in here and give you guys advice to say, okay, well, here's what you're going to do if you want to save the marriage, if you want to save your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, like, I don't agree with that. And I don't think that that's something that you should do. I think that most guys in this situation would agree with me here too, that why would you want to save this relationship? Why exactly would you want to stay together? Why exactly would you want to prolong the inevitable? Maybe you do have a great relationship with somebody. Maybe she is the love of your life, whatever. Maybe that's what you're thinking in this. But I'm telling you, like, have you thought about what your life would be on the other side of this? If you just got out of this situation, got into something else, started to focus on yourself, try and find out who you are outside of this whole scenario. That's what she was doing in the first place anyway. So really, that's the advice that I can give you here. Like, I would love to give you the other side of the coin and say, hey, like, if you just do this and do this and do this to save your relationship, and there are videos out there that you can find.
Yeah. There's a lot of people out there that are going to tell you the opposite and work with her and hold her hand and sing Kumbaya and all this other crap. But at the end of the day, you're always still going to have that wedge where she ended up. And here's the other thing I hear a lot of women chirping is, well, if he cheated on me, I'm going to go get revenge. To me, it's like, okay, so you're going to give up your body, your temple, just to get spite from me? I'm still going to leave. Like, yeah, baby, I cheated, but I didn't give a shit about the girl. You clearly had to care about this guy. And usually at times, it's a guy you already knew. Well, it was an ex you went back to or something like that. I always view it this way. Maybe I'm a dick. I don't know. You can call me that. That's fine. If you ended up cheating on your girlfriend, it's karma. She probably did something in her past that resulted in you being the one that had to cheat on her to balance the odds. That's how I view it. Now, I'm going to get a lot of shit for that, but, God in his infinite wisdom probably says, you need to do this. Because
women view it the same way, though. That's the thing. Like, women would say the same thing. Like, most women are going to come in here and say, well, no, you weren't holding your frame and I didn't respect you and you got boring. They're going to say the same thing. So, like, obviously, if that's what you believe, then you have to say the same thing for men. Okay, well, if he cheated on you, well, then you probably weren't doing enough in the relationship. Everybody has to take a certain amount of ownership here. Sure. It goes both ways. It's not just one way or the other. And absolutely, I completely agree with that. That's exactly what women would say too.
Yeah, it is. It is. End of the day is, guys, do what you feel is right. Obviously, I'm not an advocate for one parent household. It's always best to have two, but in these situations, usually it's not even good for the kids because they can feel that negative energy. They can feel that tension that you guys have. And that's usually when, so I'll give you a story. My mom stayed in her relationship. She's been separated for 27 friggin' years. They're not even divorced yet. She stayed in because she thought, well, I did it for you kids. And we had this discussion a while back. I says, okay, so you wanted the provisioning of him, even though he was he drank like a fish, he did drugs, he womanized. You wanted us to see that environment just because we could have some sneakers once in a while and have food on the table. I would have rather had her struggle and have us help her as best we can so that at some level she could be happy with herself. To this day, she's never dated anybody else. To this day, she hates men. Flip side is, again, I talk about my girlfriend a lot. She stayed in a really shitty situation for a long time, finally got herself into a really great situation. She's making great money. And her kids are way more happy or well adjusted being a single mom than she would have in that 2-parent household. So it's not always just the fact that I have to stay in these relationships for the kids. You have to look at what's a better alternative for the kids. And so sometimes being in that single mom or single dad paradigm is better than just keeping everyone in this nucleus that they can feel this stress. They can just feel this. And everyone around you knows. They're like, what the hell is going on anyway? So cheating's a big thing. I hope this has helped you guys at least understand. I hope that it makes you guys at least get why there's a huge difference between when a woman cheats and when a man cheats, and what you really should be doing about it if this happens in your relationship. You really can't give another chance. She doesn't even want it. She doesn't even want the other chance. She really doesn't at the end of the day. She knows what she did. She doesn't want to have that guilt every time she looks at you for the next 5, 10, 15 years. I cheated on him. She doesn't definitely want the guilt is, I know he's going to do it. I'm just never going to find out about it.
Right.
So you just got to
100%.
You just got to
Absolutely. And see, that's the biggest thing is like understanding that, like, yeah, she's going to feel that way the entire relationship moving forward. She's always going to regret it. She's always going to feel that guilt. She doesn't want to feel that guilt. You're just prolonging the inevitable. That's just what it is. Like it's a doomed relationship, and you just got to kind of remove yourself from it. The kids already know, like they know something's going on. They're not stupid. They're sitting there watching you guys go through this stuff. Yeah. And at the end of the day, just take care of your kids. Just make sure you take care of your kids. Be a man, be a real man, take care of your kids, move on, be happy, hold your frame. That's all we've really got for you guys today. So at the end of the day, like I said, if you guys really want to talk about this stuff, if you guys really want to try and get into this brotherhood of men that we're putting together, let us know. Go fill out the information form on our website. We've got the links below. Make sure you guys go check out the video from last Saturday. Jared actually talks a lot more about this stuff in there. He's got some step-by-steps, exactly what you should be watching for, exactly what you should be doing in every single step of this. It's obviously a difficult situation. It's not something any of us ever want to find ourselves in, but it happens, and it just does. And really, at the end of the day, take care of yourself. Make sure that you're moving on and that you're happy with the life that you're moving into, and that you know who you are and that you're okay with being alone, and that there is a happier life on the other side of this for you. It might not seem like it now, especially if you're going through this right now, but there is a happier life on the other side of all of this. You're just going to have to rip off some Band-Aids first. It's going to hurt. Go through the pain. It's what we do as men. That's why we're here to support you guys, and that's exactly what this club is for.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll be back at this next Friday, and with a whole new topic. Who knows?
If you guys have any suggestions, let us know below. We're happy to cover any topics with you guys. Show up for the conversation, and you guys have an amazing weekend.